Are we live this morning for Monday Morning Motivation on Chris Cooking Nashville Studios channel?
I think we're live. It says we're live. Let's see if I can pull it up here on my phone.
I think we're live.
I think so. Look at there.
Waiting for that delay to go away. If you guys can hear and see us, please comment and let us know you're here. Let us know you're watching. It says we got 4 people watching, and that hopefully will grow. So
yeah. Well, it's Monday.
It's Monday.
And it's early.
It's a Monday morning.
It's early.
It's a Monday morning. I'm feeling that.
Let's see. Yeah, we learned there was like a what is it? Like a 10 or 20 second delay. We found out.
Yeah, there's some kind of a delay.
Yeah. So which is interesting, but I like it. So I just got the notification that you're live. There we are.
All right.
We're doing it, babe. We're live.
Here we go. Let us know you guys can hear us.
Yeah.
That's always the concern as musicians. We're always like, is the microphone on?
Yeah. Am I just talking and nothing happening? Janelle's here, says, good morning. I finally made her mashed potato recipe last night, and it was a huge hit.
I'm so glad, Janelle. Thank you for being here, and I'm glad to hear that about the mashed potatoes.
Yeah. Says, my non-carnivore hubby said he couldn't tell the difference. Well, there you go.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah, there you go.
That's fantastic. Awesome. I love that recipe. I truly, truly love that recipe.
I do too, and I agree. It's like it's hard to honestly tell the difference between that and potatoes. Like if you don't know what it is,
if it's done correctly.
Yeah.
So because if you don't do it correctly, it tastes like blended up scrambled eggs.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do it correctly, it tastes fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. Janelle also says we hear you. So
great.
We're working it.
Well, there we go.
Richard Williams is here.
Good morning, neighbor.
Hello, neighbors from Copper Hill, Tennessee.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, my friend. Lynn's here, 22Q
Cat. Of course, Lynn's here. Good to see you, Lynn.
Yeah, says good morning, Chris, Ash, and all. Hello, Lynn.
Good morning.
Good to see you guys. And if you guys are watching and whatever, just comment down in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from, what y'all are up to on this Monday morning. Addicted to Antlers is here. Says good morning.
Good to see you.
Yeah, me and Mr. Delisle have our coffee. Just delicious.
We're attempting to caffeinate this morning.
Yeah.
We had some friends over for dinner last night, and it was very enjoyable to get to socialize and hang out. We have not been able to hang out with them and see them in a very long time. I actually, Drew, he and I have played some music together in the past. Actually, back before I knew Ash, Drew and I played. He's a drummer, and we both played for an artist together. That's how we knew each other. And his wife to be, Sarah, is also a musician, and I know they tour and they do all kinds of stuff. That's how Ash knows her, and so we were able to enjoy.
It was interesting. I've been friends with Sarah for years and years, and we wrote songs and played shows together and all. And then, like you said, you and Drew played for another artist in her band. And the artist that you two are playing for is
introduced the two of us.
Yeah, it's actually who introduced Chris and I. So it's the whole reason why we're together and married. So small world.
It's a whole little swirling combination. Which I mean, truthfully, that's just kind of the way Nashville works. I mean, everybody knows everybody in all of these various crazy ways, and everyone stays connected in that way. So
but no, it was good. We've also had a really busy week. We put out Mashed Potatoes 2.0, and we've edited and filmed a lot of videos. You've been this guy's been working hard. I'm gonna tell you.
Hard. I think I've spent about probably 30 hours editing over the last 4 or 5 days.
Easily.
So I mean, I've had 2, maybe 3 days of video editing that were probably 8 to 10 hours deep each. And then extra editing on the side and various things. So, but it's good. We've got the 2.0 mashed potatoes came out. We have the chuck roast that went with those mashed potatoes coming Saturday.
Looking forward to that. That's a good recipe.
That's going to be really good. You guys will see another special guest helping me cook in the kitchen on that one. So, so that was a lot of fun. And then you've got a music video that's going to be coming out.
I do.
That we've been working on. We've got one more thing to adjust on it, and then it's going to be done. So that's been very long process of editing and getting that all together because
it's a lot more work.
It's a lot harder to edit a music video than it is to edit a recipe video. I mean, the recipe videos already take a lot of time, but I mean, a music video is, by the time you do all of the different pieces that are cut together, and then you do all of the color grading and the color correction, and then you have to put all the effects on everything and process everything, and you got to go back 100 different times, and it's all different layers of video, and you got to sync everything up to the audio for the actual song. And I mean, it's a really intense process. There's already, I feel like, high expectations for your videos on YouTube when you do recipes. There's a completely different level of expectation of videos like music videos. Yeah. So it's a lot, but I enjoy doing it, and I'm really glad that I can do that. It also saves us about $10,000 because that's about what a music video like that would probably cost to hire someone to do it. So we like that, but it's been a long process. Yeah, it sure has. Really excited about that one and about to be released.
Yeah, we got lots of exciting things happening this week, and after this live stream, we're going to film a couple of other videos. And but it's great though. I mean, it's good to be busy, right?
I got some new recipes we're going to be filming today, and just a whole bunch of cool stuff. So I got some food experiments that need to be done. We've got tour is going to be kicking off here in a couple of weeks for you.
Not this week, next week.
Next week we're going to be kicking off tour. So we're going to be sort of traveling and everything, which is one of the reasons I've been doing so much video editing, because we got to get some things done, because I'll be on the road and won't be in my kitchen to film and do those things last minute. We'll have to have them planned out ahead. So
absolutely.
We've
got some more people joining us this morning.
All right.
Maritza's here.
Hi, Maritza.
Says, good morning, everyone.
Good to see you.
Started to make my grocery list for Costco. Is there anything I need for recipes this week?
If you want to follow along with the chuck roast that I'm doing, if you have a slow cooker, or even if you don't have a slow cooker, you could do it in like a Dutch oven, in a low oven. You could send me an email if you, for some reason, were just like, I don't know what else to do, and I'd be glad to help you. But if you have a slow cooker, a crock pot of some kind, get yourself a nice chuck roast that has some nice fat marbling. And we'll be doing that on Saturday, this chuck roast. It's so easy. You literally, you get up in the morning, you do very simple things to it, and you put it in a crock pot on low, and you come back 8 to 10 hours later and dinner is ready. I mean, it's that simple. And I will show you how to use the liquid to make gravy if you want to have gravy with it. So,
and it's delicious.
It's delicious. So that's chuck roast. And if you are into such ketovore things as onions and horseradish, the prepared horseradish that comes in the container with a little bit of vinegar, make sure there's no sugar in it, because sometimes they put sugar in those. But just prepared horseradish, basically onions and horseradish and beef broth. So chuck roast, onions, beef broth, horseradish. If you want to do the onions and horseradish, those are totally optional, typical seasonings. And then we use eggs and a little bit of cream to make the gravy. Yeah. That's it. Simple.
Also, so on your main channel, Chris Cooking Nashville channel, on every Tuesday, we do a live stream. Can you tell them what you're going to make tomorrow? Because I'm really excited about it.
Ash is very excited about this. So the live stream for tomorrow night is entitled "Your Oven is Your Friend." And the reason for this is I'm going to show you guys a technique that I actually did a video kind of using the same technique with salmon, and it did not perform real well. I think just a lot of people get freaked out by seafood. Seafood is a weird thing for some people. So I'm going to be doing salmon, but you can do this technique with chicken thighs. You can do this technique with pork chops. You could do this technique if you wanted to with steak. It would be like a reverse sear. I don't know if I would probably do this with steak, because I don't think it would be as easy. I think it's easier to just do steaks in a skillet, but you could easily do like pork chops or chicken thighs the exact same way that I'm going to do the salmon. You could do steelhead trout. You could do some different things like that. So it's basically going to be made in an oven, and I'm going to do a sauce to go along with it, and like a Bermonte influenced kind of sauce. We're actually going to do more of a Norwegian style butter sauce instead of the French butter sauce. So the Bermonte, but some additions to it. There's going to be like some cream and some different things to kind of bring that all together. But you can do it in any oven, with any kind of meat that you have, and it's very simple. So if you want to do salmon or fish of some kind, if you like that, great. If you don't care for seafood, you could get chicken thighs. You could get like boneless, skinless, or even with the bone in if you wanted. You could get pork chops. So some kind of meat, and I'm just going to have some seasonings and show you how to make a Norwegian style butter sauce to go with it.
And it's delicious.
Yes.
Yes, you're yummy. You were talking about your recipe coming out this Saturday. It looks like your parents are here.
Hello, Mom and Dad.
It says, good morning, finally made it. I know your mom was in the mashed potato video 2.0.
She was in the mashed potato video. She's helping taste test the chuck roast, and my dad has some more involvement in the chuck roast video. So
yeah. 22Q Cat says, is gravy optional when you have a roast? I think not. I would agree.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
You were talking about too about all the work that you put in, you know, like with your editing and all this. 22Q Catlin says, I see editing changes and improvements in your YouTube channels all the time. Very nice.
Well, thank you. Well, so I have to say a huge shout out to all of the band members in the Patreon and the YouTube, which you can join, and you get some extra stuff behind the scenes, more direct connection with me if you want to ask questions, whatever. There's a $1 amount, which is just if you want to throw $1 a month our way kind of thing, just help support. That's cool, but I don't do any of the recipes at that level. That's just kind of general support. But $5 and up per month, or any of the $5 YouTube memberships, you guys get some extra recipes, and there's just some cool things. We talk about things, and I try to share what's going on behind the channel. But I have to say a huge shout out to them, and also a huge shout out to everyone who has gone to my Amazon wish list and donated a little bit of money towards the computer fund. You were actually watching a live stream through the brand new editing computer.
Yes.
And you've seen a couple of videos now. I guess one video. You've seen one video that has come from the new editing computer. And the fact that it works as fast as it does and has the processing power it does is allowing me to start experimenting with more editing techniques. And I think just overall, it's going to make a huge difference.
Oh, yeah. It already has. It's huge.
Yeah. Like when I used to edit videos, I would edit a recipe video, and it's like, let's say maybe a 10 to 15 minute video. It would take 45 minutes to an hour and a half for that video to render. So once it's all done, you click render, and it processes it all into a single video file that you can then upload to YouTube. And that would take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour for it to do that. And then I would have to upload it, which takes, depending on your internet connection, can take as much as, an hour or 2 or 3. Depending on how big of a video, how long of a video that is. So that used to take a long time. And then all of the different actual editing things that I would do, it would just make the computer run so hard. It would all slow down. So I'd have to turn off all these effects so I could finish editing the video, and then turn them all back on, and then edit it out or render it out. And then that would make it take longer, which is why it was taking sometimes an hour or more for me to render that video. Now, with my computer that I'm using, I can leave all that stuff turned on. I can edit all the way through, no problem. I do a quick, thing with the color correction, try to make it look good for you guys, put on all the effects that I need, and I render it, and it renders in like 15 to 20 minutes, and we're done. And then when I go to upload it, I can set it, and I can just go to bed and just let it upload overnight. And it runs. It doesn't it doesn't bog down. It doesn't quit randomly or unexpectedly. Also, you guys are seeing us through the camera of my iPhone, because that's what we use as a webcam when we do these live streams. In the past, I was having to run my iPhone through a cable, plug it into the computer, go into the computer, try to get it to recognize it, open up different software to make that all happen. Now, I turned my iPhone on this morning. This is the first one we've done with the new computer. I turned my iPhone on. I opened up an app that uses the camera just so that the computer recognizes it's there. It wirelessly connected, and it was like, great, here we are. So major shout out to the band members and to those who went onto the Amazon wish list, because that's the way we were able to afford to pay for at least part of that computer. And then, we've been blessed to have enough resources that we were able to take care of the rest and go ahead and get that done.
Yeah.
So made a huge difference.
More videos that we put out, the more people hopefully get encouraged on their health journey.
Yeah.
The more people maybe hear about keto and carnivore, and it's just a good thing.
We're just all building this together.
So. Absolutely, it's a group effort. Cannot do it without the band members and everybody for sure. Definitely not. Trust me.
Absolutely. And all that stuff, the YouTube memberships and the Patreon should be linked in the description. So if you didn't know I have any of that and you're like, I'd love to be a part of the Chris Cooking Nashville family and be a member of the band, you can go down there and join. We'd love to have you.
Yeah. We'll be family. You'll be stuck with us, but we promise we're all right.
That's right. For the band members and the YouTube members, actually, yesterday, I think it was, I just put out a post with the recipe for the salsa verde that I used for the carnitas in last week's live stream. And if you guys don't have that recipe, you're missing out because that is good.
It's delicious.
Stuff.
Like y'all don't even know.
Yeah, it's easy too.
Got a couple things going on here in the comments. Let's see. So for starters, we have Robert watching. He says hello.
Hi, Robert.
Frankie over 50 says hey from Western Australia.
Hi, Frankie.
Brian Wayne says I like those knives hanging on the wall.
Hey, Brian. Thank you very much, man.
Maritza wants to know, because you were telling her about what groceries to get.
Yep.
Could it be pork roast?
Yeah, you could do a pork roast. It would work basically the same way. You might want just a little bit longer than that 8 to 10 hours. Or ideally what you would do is do exactly what I'm going to do, but take the pork roast and cut it into smaller chunks. And the only reason is because pork has more fat and you have to get that fat rendered out, and it can take a little bit longer if you do a whole pork roast. Sometimes they're just the way they're shaped, they're a little thicker as well than a chuck roast. So if you take like a pork shoulder, like a Boston butt or some other kind of pork roast like that, and just cut it into big baseball-sized chunks off of the bone or whatever, and then do the exact same thing to it, it would work great.
That sounds so good.
Yeah, that'll work.
Your dad said just dad this morning, so I guess mom's not there.
Okay.
We got just dad.
All right.
Just dad.
Mom's probably cleaning the house and rearranging since my grandpa passed away. My parents are completely rearranging the entire house now and doing a massive amount. And after someone has lived for almost 96 years, there's a lot to clean out. So
absolutely,
they're very, very busy.
Maritza also wants to know, do you have a recipe card for the chicken flour?
So I don't know if there's a recipe card for the chicken flour or not. I don't remember if I went back and did one. If you go to my recipe card page and you just search chicken flour at the top of the recipe card page, if I have one, it'll pop up. If not, then that recipe is in the description box of the video. So if you go to the YouTube channel and you search Chris Cooking Nashville chicken flour, you'll see that video. It's usually the first thing that pops up. And that recipe is in that description box. You can just highlight it and copy and paste. And then I will go and check on that. And hopefully at some point, if I have not yet done at some point here soon, I will try to get in there and create a recipe card for the chicken flour.
Yeah.
So.
Brian Wayne says, I was born in Maine, so love the idea of more seafood cooking videos. So
yeah. Well, Brian, I'm happy to do those. I actually had another person who asked me if I could do more seafood in a message the other day. And I told them, I said, I love seafood. Like, I love seafood. And I've actually gotten Ash to where she likes seafood a lot more too.
In fact, last night for dinner, you made cod.
Yeah, last night for dinner, I did blackened cod, and it was amazing. And she really enjoyed it. And I did like a remoulade with it. I love seafood, and I love doing seafood recipes. And I have a lot of seafood recipes. I'm probably going to have to keep those as the occasional, like, middle of the week type video. When I put up, like, if I put up a recipe that has like beef, right, or chicken or eggs, or whatever, like the bread type recipes or the pastas, whatever, those things get like 5,000 to 10,000 views in the first day. And, this is how we pay our bills. So I have to think about those things. If I put up a seafood recipe, I'm lucky to get 2. So it really cuts back on the ability for us to run the channel sometimes if I use those as our main recipes. But since I'm doing, more recipes now because I'm out of the day job and we're doing this full time, I might be able to do some more seafood recipes, like middle of the week extra recipe type stuff.
Yeah. Well, plus,
so,
those, fatty seafoods and
yeah.
omega-3s and stuff. I mean,
absolutely. Those fatty seafoods are really good for us.
Yeah.
And, not that you do it every single day, but if you don't have like an allergy or something, it's a really great thing to incorporate, whether you're keto or carnivore or whatever, because there's different things that are so good for us.
Oh, yeah.
In those things, it's just not something that a majority of people really seem to be interested in all the time. So,
yeah.
But I would love to do more.
Just brought up a great point, by the way, too, talking about seafood. She says, I live in Wisconsin, land of dairy cows and cheese, not seafood. And that's a good point because, people live in different places.
Well, people live in different places. And unfortunately, seafood is one of those things that has a very, very short shelf life. And it is so hard to get it fresh from wherever the water is to wherever the people that are landlocked live.
Yeah.
And it's just, it will degrade very quickly, which means it's either super expensive to get it because you have to ship it, or it's frozen and the quality starts to go down. And so seafood is a weird thing, but I will, as possible, I will try to do some. I actually have a really good recipe I did for my birthday for scallops. I think that would be a fun one to do. She'd like, I don't know. Had you ever had scallops? Man, I think you've had them once. Yeah,
I've had them before. By you,
yeah.
When I first
don't think scallops are really your favorite thing though until you have those.
No, those are delicious. Yeah, yeah. When I first met Chris, I would not even eat a tuna sandwich. I was just so anti anything seafood, and now he has brought me over to the dark side or the fish side, however we want to say it. But no, they were delicious.
Yeah.
But I definitely am with Brian. I vote more seafood recipes. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to do some of that.
Yeah. Debbie Savings is here.
Hi, Debbie.
Says, hi, guys. I just wanted to pop in and say hi. Hope you're all having a great day.
Yeah, we're doing great. We hope you're having a great day.
We're doing. CB says, love your new channel. Happy new week. You guys are amazing at everything. Praying for God to bless everything you set your hands to. That's
well, thank you very much. We appreciate and covet all the prayers that everyone gives us because we just can't do this otherwise. So.
Lynn says, well, I could probably eat mud if I knew Chris made it, LOL, because I know he would have added bologna, hot dogs, eggs, white powder, or whatever. Yep. I know it would be delicious.
That's right.
And Jesus is coming soon says, hi, everyone. More seafood recipes sound great.
All right. Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, guys, I put the title today as Staying on Track. And I know Ash has some things to say about this, but I'll just drop in my 2 cents here and then I'll turn it over to the lady. Because she was, I told her, I was like, this is kind of what we're talking about. She's like, ooh, I have ideas. And I was like, okay, cool. Staying on track. I think, excuse me, this Studios channel, the whole reason this Studios channel even exists is because the reason I first started Chris Cooking Nashville in the first place was it was a personal goal of mine to have a YouTube channel. And I wanted to cook. But at the same time, I was getting back on track with doing carnivore after I'd gained a bunch of weight back when Ash and I were talking about all of this back at the beginning of last year. And I started the channel because I was going to eventually put recipes on there just because that was a thing I wanted to do. I didn't think it would ever turn into anything really, but I just wanted to do it. But I also then decided to leverage the channel as a way to keep myself accountable to help me stay on track. And so that's why I started doing health vlogs, talking about health and talking about my own personal weight loss journey and all these things. And the reason the Studios channel exists that you guys are watching right now is because we started doing the recipes. The recipes massively ended up taking off. And I realized some people want recipes, some people want health information, and some people want both. So I needed to separate the health information over here and keep the recipes on the Chris Cooking Nashville channel, which is what everyone knew it for. And then if people wanted to watch both, they could watch both. Or if they wanted one or the other, they'd have that option. And so that's the reason this even exists, because I needed help staying on track. And you guys are the way that I stay on track. You are the ones that give me a purpose in keeping my diet in check and keeping my thoughts in check and doing this stuff. And I'm not perfect at it. I mean, there's days where I'm more keto and there's days that I've had cheats. I mean, I've talked about that on this channel before where I had a cupcake when your brother got engaged,
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, we've talked about the skyline chili at my grandfather's wake, or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, these different kinds of things. So now I don't worry about those things anymore. That doesn't bother me. That's not something that causes me any issues anymore because it's an intentional choice. But there was a time that was a huge problem for me.
Mm-hmm.
I would have never been able to do that.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to say this whole thing of, like, you know, staying on track. Perfection, we've talked about, is the enemy of progress. And when you are trying to say everything has to be perfect and it's going to be this and it's going to be that and I'm never going to falter and I'm never going to fail and I'm never going to slip up and there's never going to be a circumstance that da 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 da. When you put all the nevers into it, you're never going to stick with it.
That's right.
And it's just not realistic. Can you grow to a point where all you ever want is meat, salt, and water? Probably. Is that necessary? I don't know. I'm not a doctor, and none of this is medical advice. This is just our own experiences. So I think you can grow yourself to that point if that's a goal for you. And if that's not a goal for you, I think that's totally fine. But I think more importantly than trying to get to meat, salt, water perfectly, you never slip up, rather than focusing on that, staying on track is all about focusing on what did I do yesterday and how do I do it a little bit better today?
Mm-hmm.
And then how do I do it a little bit better tomorrow? And when something happens where maybe today isn't as good as yesterday was, you go, okay, cool. Well, then I'm going to take today and I'm going to go right back what I'm going to need to do tomorrow. And I'm just going to keep going. Because if you keep focusing forward, not focusing at the end of the journey, not focusing on the journey that's behind you, focusing on where you are today and where you want to be realistically the rest of today and into tomorrow. If you just do that every single day, you don't have to worry about all of these other circumstances in your life pulling you off, because you're not worrying about the circumstances. It's not like, well, what am I going to do if I just had this cupcake? And now what if tomorrow? And then what if next week? And then what? All of those what ifs don't help anything. They don't matter.
Right.
What matters is you go, like for me, I just had this cupcake at my brother-in-law's engagement party. Cool. Should I be eating cupcakes on a daily basis? No. I did. It is what it is. And that was an intentional thing that I did to celebrate with them. I did that. Guess what I'm going to do? In the morning, I'm going to wake up. I'm going to eat eggs first thing. If I start craving sugar, I'm going to go, no. And I'm going to stop that craving and I'm going to shove protein and fat into my stomach. And I'm going to shut that down. And I'm just going to do today better than I did yesterday.
I would agree.
And that's all I'm going to worry about. And I'm not going to worry about, like, well, what if this cupcake throws me off? And what if this? And what if that? Because the thing that I see so many people talking about in Facebook groups and on YouTube comment sections and even in videos sometimes, if they're like a smaller creator that is doing a channel where they're showing you a journey, like where I started out, like that kind of stuff, things I see consistently are people living in fear of the decision they might make, or living in fear of a decision they made yesterday and now what that might do to them. And it's like we have this idea that anything that happens to us, whether we decide it or the circumstances around us cause something or whatever the case may be, that somehow that is going to have this lasting impact on who we are, what we do, what we decide, our value, our body, like everything that could possibly go wrong. We take it to the worst possible place because we had a cupcake or because we had fast food or because we do whatever. And we sabotage ourselves and we pull ourselves off of that path. And that is the reason we don't stay on track.
Yeah.
That is what happens. It's what happened to me because I came up with an excuse for why I should have some carbs. It was easier. It was this, it was that. And then once I started making those decisions way back when I did this all the first time and we went off the rails again, I made those decisions and then I kept using the excuse of making the decision. And then we had the leftovers. Well, I need to eat those. Well, now I'm craving this. Well, now I'm doing that. And I started getting up in my own head. And rather than just going back to what I needed to do and staying on track, I started looking at, well, look what I did the last week. And look what I've got coming up next week. And what am I going to do? And I'm never going to get to meet salt water. And I just beat myself up over it. And that's why I didn't stay on track.
Yeah.
And I had a carbohydrate addiction that was fueling my desire to go the wrong direction anyway. So I had to admit my addiction. I had to stop beating myself up if it wasn't perfect. And I had to little by little by little every single day come up with the solution that would take me to the next place that I needed to go. That's why I started doing recipes, right? I'm not saying that you need these recipes to be successful as a carnivore or even on keto or any of that kind of stuff. Like, there's people out there that are very dogmatic that are like, this is stupid. You shouldn't do this, you know, whatever. And that's fine. If they don't need them, that's cool. But there's no sense in beating yourself up, and there's no sense in beating other people up. Overusing recipes like this helps keep you on track. Some people, that's very helpful. Some people, that may trigger them, and that's actually not helpful, and they need to avoid it. And that's totally fine. But if those people are that way, they shouldn't be watching the recipe videos.
Sure.
Don't watch the thing that you can't have because you know it's going to take you down a bad path. So it's
not made for you.
Right. So every person needs to understand who they are and what they do. And this is why we have to do it day by day by day, because you have to learn yourself how you react to things. And the only way to do that is, what do I do today? And how do I do it a little better tomorrow? And you will figure it out as you go. And that is how we stay on track.
I would agree with that. I think so.
I'm done preaching.
Are you done? Good job.
I'm done preaching. Amen. Hallelujah.
You did good.
Yeah. Now you take it over.
Oh boy. No, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I think something, like, just to add to what you were talking about, though, that actually may help people is, I think sometimes, you know, we can talk a lot about, like, don't get distracted and don't do this and don't do that. But I think where I try to help you with these Monday, you know, morning motivationals and kind of trying to keep everything on track is, I am really into things like organization and structure and planning. And
that's where your talents really lie.
Yeah. And honestly, I think it's because I have to be that way. You know what I mean? It's like, I have to run Chris's schedule and my schedule and planning a tour. It's like, I just have to be very organized. And we have so many projects that we work on all the time that it's like, you know, for years have just had to really get good at it. And so I watch a lot of, you know, podcasts and different interviews and just really try to work with that. So, you know, it comes back to well, how do I, with my health goals, how do I reach them? And I think a big mistake that I see people make, and I made this for a long time too, but just an observation, is people will go and, let's say they're like, man, I want to lose 100 pounds. And so as of January 1, right? So it's like Christmas and all that. They eat whatever they want. Then January 1, it's like, okay, I got to be better. And so then you're maybe motivated for like a month, but then it becomes harder and harder as time goes on. Well, then it's like, well, wait a second. New Year's Eve rolls around. You know, then you have Valentine's Day. Well, we got to go out and have dinner. There's all these things that kind of like then start to, like you said, distract you. Or you started with such a big goal that now it's completely overwhelming.
Yeah.
And you went from, let's say, like a standard American diet of eating whatever you want to now you're trying cold turkey, going in being like meat, salt, water. Maybe you can do that. Very small percentage. I did carnivore for 30 days. No way I could have done meat, salt, water. You know, it's just things like that, though, where it's like your goals are so big, and that's good, but you're basically thinking about the end result and the end picture. And that could take you years to get there. So instead, what I would recommend doing is, like, you know, what if your goal, for example, is, let's say, to lose 100 pounds. Okay, great. How are you planning on losing the weight? Is it with keto and carnivore? Are you going to, incorporate things like workouts and exercise? I mean, be very specific, but also take that big goal and maybe you could break it up into quarters, right? So every 3 or 4 months, you have a new set of goals. So, maybe, for example, it's like, man, my goal right now is to lose 100 pounds. I know that's going to take a while. So you know what? I'm going to do carnivore for 90 days. That's 3 months.
Right.
Maybe all you focus on is just doing carnivore for, 3 months. Okay. So then, the next 3 months come along. It's like, okay, now maybe I want to do this, or I want to try adding this in, but like make your goals realistic. And instead of just making a New Year's resolution or whatever, like people do, to carry you through a whole year, like a year is a long period of time. It's like, so break it up into basically quarterly things. And then that way every, I have a reminder in my phone where it goes off like, quarterly, and it's like, hey, your quarterly check-ins come in. And I'm like,
right.
Oh, okay. So then I sit down at the end of that quarter and I go, did I meet my goals? It makes it really easy. I also think too, if you plan things out, just like you would honestly with like your life, I think it's good to sit and look though at like say 3 months at a time. Because for example, I probably know that in the months of October, November, and December, we have Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you, I probably will make a choice to maybe have some things in those 3 months I don't usually eat.
Yeah.
Because it's the holidays, I'm going to be with family, And so then I can already start to think though, okay, do I want to make the choice to eat that or do I not? And I can already start to plan then what substitutes I would make. I would start to think about, okay, so if I know that say on Thanksgiving, I'm going to go hog wild per se, or if I have real mashed potatoes and not carnivore mashed potatoes, well then the rest of that week and the week prior, maybe I eat carnivore. You know what I mean? It's like just things like that where it's like set yourself up to succeed, and don't get in your own head, because also like you're going to mess up and make mistakes. But if you make your goals smaller, they become a lot more, obtainable. It also is going to help keep you on track because you're not looking at this massive picture that could take years and years and years to obtain. Yeah. You're looking at this right here. And you're able to daily and monthly get up and just do a little bit at a time, which will lead you eventually to that big goal. Yeah. And so it just kind of helps keep you on track. And like I said, you can look at like what's going on in your life and what's coming up. Are you going to have an engagement party and decide to have a cupcake? Right? Yeah. Like, but you plan it and Absolutely. Like my birthday is next month. I may have some ice cream on my birthday. Right. No one died. No one passed out. Right. But like I 3 months ago sat down and made that decision of like, you know what, my birthday's coming up and I would like to do blah, 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 blah. And I you know what, I'm going to have ice cream that day. So, maybe it's like I've already made the decision. There's no second guessing myself. And I know what the consequences are. So therefore I know the next day I just go right back to doing what I'm doing and I go right back to working on the goal. Right. So by planning and kind of putting yourself in, breaking that down, I actually think you set yourself up to success. And I think, this applies to a lot of things. And I just don't think sometimes we apply these things to our health journey. I think we think that we should just, meal by meal. Okay, I ate meat today. Yeah. Good. Nothing wrong with that. But I'm just saying, like, for me, that would be hard because then when you're faced with temptation of like, hey, do you want to go out and have blah, 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 blah? It's like, well, now I'm in the moment. I haven't thought this through. I haven't planned on it. I don't know what my response is. Do I want to? Do I not? Yep. Am I going to give into peer pressure and go eat something I shouldn't? Am I making an excuse, or is that a conscious, planned out choice and decision? Right. It's a very different mindset. So I think you'll set yourself up to succeed. And I think if you also think about like the point of where like you break things down into quarterly goals, every successful business does that. I mean, you hear about it. Quarterly reviews, quarterly sales goals, quarterly whatever. Why do they do it quarterly and not do it just once a year? Right? Why do we have New Year's resolutions that, we all joke, it's like we're good for a month or two, and then come, February and March, it's like everyone's quit their resolution. It's like there's no accountability throughout the whole year. So
the gym is packed in January.
Yep.
It's about half packed in February, and it's basically a ghost town in March.
Yeah. And I don't think that's on anybody because I, for years and years, did that the same way. And it wasn't until, honestly, it's like, we started doing keto and carnivore and we saw how that worked. I mean, that's it. When I was, at my heaviest, shocking, I still would go walk every single day. Right. It's like I was very active and I had a job that I was on my feet and I thought, oh, that's good. And I would eat things like soy milk. Because I was told that was healthy. And so, I mean, I would have called myself for the most part, minus the fast food and alcohol. I would have been like, oh, I'm pretty healthy, Right. But I would make goals like that and I would join a gym and I'd be there for a month and then I'd not go.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm just as guilty as the next person, but I think, unfortunately, my health got to a point where I couldn't ignore that.
Yeah.
And so
I think this is why, we plan, and this is kind of where I'm going with this. You need to think about tomorrow as compared to today, and not be trying to beat yourself up about what am I going to do to get out of this and out of that and whatever, and be thinking about all the mistakes you're going to make in 6 weeks. Like, you plan out, like, okay, here's what I'm going to do, and here's this, and here's that, and here's my approach, and all this kind of stuff, exactly like Ash is talking about. And that's a great tool, and you need to have those things like set yourself up for success. So you focus on your success by planning out into advance as far as you realistically are going to be able to accurately be able to do.
Sure.
Right? Like here's the details, and here's what I'm going to do. So you plan all that out in advance. You set yourself up for success going forward. And then in the moment when you're thinking about, did I do good or did I not do good? Did I slip up? What about this mistake? What about that? Blah, blah, blah. That's a day-to-day thing where you don't focus on everything you've done in the past.
Yeah.
And you don't freak out about everything you could do in the future. You just focus on tomorrow being better than today.
Yeah.
And when you have a plan in place, that's much easier to do.
It is.
And then you don't pull yourself off track by things that are hypothetical situations where it could go wrong.
I also think too, like, if you listen to a lot of really, brilliant, like, entrepreneurs and businessmen, I find, and I understand why, but when you do make a mistake and when you do slip up, which it happens to all of us, right? I mean, that's inevitable and it will happen, and that's okay. But it's like, the reaction of most people when they go off, keto or carnivore and they have something they shouldn't is like, oh, woe is me, the world is over.
Right.
Oh, I made this big mistake. And I understand why. And I think some of that is some of the culture in this community, keto and carnivore community, can be very dogmatic to where it's like, how dare you do that?
Yeah.
And
society is already willing to judge you for it. And
right.
then if you compare yourself to other people doing the same keto carnivore thing, and the loud minority that is very dogmatic about it, like, they lean into that even more, and there is that potential.
But I also think if you have a set of goals and a plan and you're doing your thing, if you do slip up and if you go off that plan, yes, you go right back on it to the next day.
Yeah.
But instead of freaking out, stop and ask yourself, what made me do that?
Right.
Because there's probably a problem there. And that's just the truth of it from my own experience. And I'm sure you can relate. But like, you did carnivore and you did it awesome. You lost a lot of weight the first time.
Yep.
You did great. And then you slipped off and you went off the rails.
Right.
And so you had to go, whoa, wait a minute. Why did that? Well, I'm addicted to carbohydrates.
Right.
So how do I fix that solution?
Yep.
So I think if you were to stop, like, when you do make a mistake, don't beat yourself up, but try to figure out, like, why would I do that?
Right.
Why would I decide to eat this when it wasn't in my plan? It wasn't in my goals. It's just something that happened. Why did I do that? Because there's probably some underlying issue.
Yeah.
And if you can, handle and address especially that underlying issue, well, then going forward, that's going to propel you way further in your health journey.
Absolutely.
You're going to be a lot happier and healthier of a person. I mean, it just makes sense. And so I know for you, it's like when you addressed your carbohydrate issue, you did 365 days, no cheats whatsoever on carnivore.
Yep. And that was me beating an addiction into submission, because I admitted I had that addiction.
Right.
And I was like, I need to do this. And that's why I used the health vlogs as a way to stay accountable to that, because I had to answer for it every single week.
Right.
I needed that support to be able to do that.
Well, and see, that's a great thing too. So it's like, if you have quarterly goals, right? So, kind of, okay, the next 3 months, this is my goals. This is a small baby step into the big picture. I would also say, like, having a great community and support system and having people to be accountable to, whether that's here in this community, over on your main channel, maybe it's people in your life. I mean, going to, like, meetups and different things.
Yeah.
I mean, very important. I also think, not keeping stuff in your house where it's easy to slip.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time it's like, oh man, I don't, it's the day after Christmas and we still have all this fudge and candy. And it's like, I guess I better eat it. And it's like, okay, you can make the choice to do that if you think, but should you? That's for you to decide. But you see what I'm saying? When you start asking those tough questions, why is it that I can't throw out the fudge?
Right.
If I know that's killing me and that's how I got to be in this thing, why can't I throw it out? Why can't I do it? So you can set yourself up to succeed.
Yeah. There is a very odd thing, and this is why I think there are a lot of people that have a carbohydrate addiction, at least to some level, that they don't even realize they have. Because there is a real thing, and I've experienced it on my channel because of the culture of the way people think in the comment section. But there is a real thing where we look at stuff as a resource, and we guard resources to the point of it being unhealthy.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, this fudge is a good example. This fudge was maybe something we had. It was a celebratory thing. It was for the family, whatever. But first of all, we made way too much because we have to go to extremes and excess because of the way our culture is designed around food. So first of all, there's the extreme and the excess and like the binging on the sweets and the treats. That I think speaks to the fact that carbohydrate addiction is very ingrained in a lot of people, to at least some level. But also then we have all of this left over because we made so much.
Right.
Well, now we've made too much. Now we feel guilty about the fact that we've made all of this. And so instead of throwing that out and saying, this is not good for me, we continue binging on it, using it again and again and again. I mean, think about this like a drug, right? Like sugar is a drug. So we're using it day after day after day after day after day because we cannot bring ourselves to throw it out. I think one of the things that was a really interesting moment for us right after I had started going back to doing carnivore stuff, we had something in the house. I forget even what it was, but Ash looked at me. She was cleaning out a pantry and she was like, hey, did you want me to keep this for anything? And I looked at her and I said, that's not food, that's poison.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And she was like, really? And I was like, yeah, throw it away. And she's like, I'm so proud of you. And I looked at it and it was like, I think it was maybe like, I don't know, like a box of pasta that was like opened. Or, it was something we had. And she was like, is there any reason to save this? And I was like, no, it's poison. And you know, if you're choosing to use carbohydrates as a recreational drug, that's a personal choice. I don't do recreational drugs, but other people do. That's for them to decide. I'm not here to tell anyone how to live their life, but I don't think it's healthy. And I think sugar is no exception. So when we have that kind of stuff, it's the same thing as having a drink. It's like, that is a drug. That is a poison that is enjoyable in some way to experience. And we choose to do that. But if you continue choosing it again and again and again, and I mean, like, how do people become alcoholics? They drink and they drink and they drink and they enjoy it more and more and more. And suddenly they're addicted to the thing you're having. And it becomes so incapacitating and so harmful that it's like, this is killing you. But you continue to do it because you can't let go of the idea. And not only will you continue doing it, but you'll actually go seek it out because your brain doesn't know how to stop, right? That kind of sounds a lot like I have the fudge sitting around and I will not bring myself to throw it away. I've got to eat it. So I'm going to eat it and 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 eat it because God forbid we throw it away.
Yeah.
And I understand. I've been this way too. So I'm not in any way judging anyone for it. But I think it's a thing we have to be able to understand it and see it for what it is and say, first of all, if we make these things, we need to make a lot less.
Yeah.
And if we're going to choose to have that recreational drug of the sugar, we need to do it and then not have it all laying around. And if there is some laying around and we say, this is not good, I cannot do this, we need to be able to throw it away.
That also goes back to planning, meal prepping and all of that. Like, if it's your birthday or Christmas or, a special occasion, like, personally, no, I could get crucified for this. Personally, though, I'm just keeping it real. It's like, all right, so if I eat keto, carnivore, totally low carb, but, let's say it's like Christmas and I want to have fudge and eggnog because that's what I grew up and that, my brothers are going to be here and that's like what we do or whatever.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, I'm going to plan on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day then having some of that. After that, I don't keep drinking it the day after Christmas.
Right.
It's like, okay, so whatever is left, I'm going to throw in the trash because it's like, why you're basically not setting yourself up to succeed. You're not intentionally making a choice to have a little bit of something and then go right back to doing what you're doing. You're surrounding yourself with things that are tempting.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're not setting yourself up to succeed very well.
Right.
And so I personally would much rather throw that away and, you know, have a little bit, throw it away and move on and go back to doing what I'm doing. Cause I would like to live for a long time and, you know, be here for many, many more years to, you know, live life and do my thing versus, well, you know, I wish I wouldn't have a bunch of fudge. And
I think what this maybe comes down to a lot of times, and this very much is that staying on track thing. What do you value more? The fudge, the eggnog, the candy, the whatever the thing is, or your own life?
Amen.
Which one is more important? Which one is more valuable? And I think this goes to speak to addiction, because addiction is when you know something is not good for you, but you will convince yourself that it's okay.
Yeah.
Because your brain can't let go of it. That's why, like, people who are addicted to things, alcohol, drugs, whatever it may be, people who have an addiction, I don't look at them and look down on them because, first of all, I had a carb addiction, so I can't come from a place where I can judge anybody.
Right.
But I look at them and I honestly my heart just breaks for them because I realize they are fighting a battle that is very hard, very hard. And it is very sad to see what's going on. But the thing is, addicts know that it's not good for them to do it unless they're just so completely out of their mind that, you know, they can't think straight.
The
high causes that, but but they know what they're doing to themselves is probably not good, but they cannot stop because addiction makes you value the high more than yourself. And so when you value fudge and eggnog and candy and potatoes and any of these other things that it's like, I can't throw this away, I can't possibly get rid of this,
right,
more than you value your own well-being, that is addiction. That is what addiction does to us. So I think it's a thing when you want to stay on track, you have to think to yourself, am I more valuable, or is that little bit of leftover whatever in the fridge more valuable?
Right.
Is it me that matters, or is it that matters? And I think we, without even realizing it subconsciously, we are so down on ourselves and have so little personal value in our own mind. We don't care enough for our own self or see enough value in ourself to think that we are more important than $3 worth of leftover food.
Yeah.
And that is carbohydrate addiction.
It is.
And that's not how most people think of carbohydrate addiction. Because they think, oh, well, I can't stop the temptation. I have to go to the store and buy it. That's the first kind of carbohydrate addiction where you go seek it out. The second kind of addiction is when it's there and you are in a clear frame of mind, being unwilling to get rid of it because you're not as valuable as that thing.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal. It was for me. I didn't want to throw any of that stuff out. And it's like, well, I know I shouldn't eat any of this, but I it's not good for me, but I can't get rid of this because, you know, I spent this money on it. Now I'm going to feel bad if I throw this away and all this kind of stuff. I mean, now granted, don't go out and buy 50 pounds of stuff and spend $100 on stuff, eat 2 bites and throw it all out. That's just wasting money, which then puts a financial strain on you, which makes it harder to go afford the meat and the eggs and the things that you should be eating.
Sure.
So, you know, we don't want to do that. But it's like to work on getting this idea out of our minds that somehow we are not more valuable than the stuff, the food that is poisoning us.
Yeah.
You guys are all more valuable than that. I'm more valuable than that. Ash is more valuable than that. So it's a weird place to try to get your mind to think about, is it me or this food that has more value? Food.
I think that's really good. I have one more quick point, and then if you want, we'll check the comments section.
Yeah, absolutely.
I couldn't agree more. The value of your own self over that. You know, I was just kind of thinking about like everything that you were just kind of saying, and I think that's why it is so important to plan out your cheat meals, whatever y'all want to call them.
Yeah.
And kind of have these guidelines in place though, because it sets you up to succeed. But I also think that it's important to kind of note that, you know, when you're talking about basically things like when you slip up or whatever, this is why I think you just have to have small health goals.
Yeah.
And you need to take it in small increments at a time. Because if you do, let's say, carnivore for, 3 months, and then, you have a cheat meal and it kind of derails you and you're trying to get back on track and it's a whole thing. It's just these are so many ways that you can set yourself up to basically succeed. But I also think, as we're talking about us having things and planning out like treat and cheat meals, I think it's very important that each person watching and hearing this message, because we are not doctors or health specialists, we are YouTubers who have made a lot of mistakes and we have learned from those mistakes.
Yeah.
And so therefore that's why we're here, and you're creating recipes and we're just trying to help and encourage and motivate.
Absolutely.
But I think, when we're talking about deciding to cheat or to plan out goals or whatever, each person needs to look at their own selves and what they're addicted to and what their issues are. Yeah. And if you have a thing where like you can't be around something like fudge, then don't put yourself in that situation.
Absolutely.
To have some. And I don't want people to think that we're not open to it, but you've definitely shared about your carbohydrate addiction. And I know for a time it was really hard for Chris to have things in the house, because if he would have one little thing, I mean, that's how you went off the rails the first time.
Right.
Like the first time you did carnivore and you went off the rails.
I used to talk about when I was doing carnivore the first time, because I had not dealt with my carb addiction.
Right.
I could eat a Brussels sprout. Yeah. And 6 hours later, I'm craving Twinkies.
Yeah.
I mean, how stupid was that?
Yeah.
That was the level of addiction I had.
Absolutely. So I also, for me, I don't think carbs, I don't react the same way that Chris does. So I feel like for me to have a little, little something that maybe isn't totally keto or carnivore from time to time, that doesn't seem to derail me, and I won't think about food. I don't, whatever. For me, my weakness has always been alcohol. Yeah. So I quit drinking, I guess, a little over 2 years ago when I first started keto, because it's pretty much all carbs, all the beers and all the stuff that I would
Especially
drink.
The alcohol we enjoyed.
Yeah.
Was like beer, wine, fruity drinks,
high
that kind
carbs,
of stuff. All
lots of sugar. So I quit drinking 2 years ago. And I had one little sip of champagne one day at a family brunch. And when I say a sip, I mean, I literally had a sip. And I, for a week and a half, literally wanted to curl up in a cradle position, and I just could not function. And so for me, that was a really eye-opening thing, though, because instead of freaking out and being like, oh my gosh, I had a sip of champagne and now I'm in here on the floor in a cradle position and I can't think straight and whatever. I was like, okay, so clearly my body doesn't react that way, right? It's like, stop. Why are you reacting this way? Yeah. So I realized, what? I don't think I just genetically handle alcohol really well. So there was a time where I actually would not go into a bar, and I would just take myself completely away from it. Yeah. Like I could not be around it. I was like, I don't want to think about it. I need to get my head on straight first. And then over time, I would slowly introduce social situations or different things where there was alcohol all around me, and I'm not tempted by it. I don't think about drinking it, but it's like I had to work myself up to that point where it's like I can go play a show at a bar. Everyone can be drinking around me, and I'm totally okay with that. Yep. I can go out to dinner with friends. They can drink. I'm totally cool with that. So we're just saying, like, we're not, callous, and we understand how hard addiction is. Yeah. So if you're not at the place in your health journey to where you can make these decisions, that's okay. All right. Start small, plan, work your way up there, and we're here to encourage you in that. Yeah. So just thought that disclaimer was worth saying before
Yeah, I agree. And I think the accountability element of that, when she realized after she had that little bit of champagne and she was like just struggling, just not herself, like she looked at me and she said, do me a favor, keep me accountable. And if I ever say, hey, I'm going to have this drink with people, she's like, I want you to look at me, grab me by the shoulders and look me in the face. And she's like, if you need to, you shake me a little bit, get me to wake up.
Knock me around a little
and bit. No, I'm not going to do that. But I don't want to get stabbed in my sleep. She's from Bakersfield. But, no, she was like, look at me and keep me accountable and tell me, hey, knock it off. That is not the right choice. And she wants me to keep her accountable. And I have told her, if you start seeing me trying to make excuses, like I want to go get fast food or I want to go get a slushie at Sonic or I want to go, like, whatever it is, I said, I want you to look at me and, hey, knock that off. Like, stop that.
Right.
Stop that. Because in that moment, I know I'm probably not thinking very clear. So, if you don't have anyone around you that can help keep you accountable for these things, that's why the community is here. If you're starting to crave things, come into the community and be like, hey, I'm really struggling with something here. Yeah. Connect with people outside of just, the YouTube thing here. Like, you guys go meet each other on social media. You can find me on the Chris Cooking Nashville page. You can find each other on the Chris Cooking Nashville page. like whatever, go find people that you have for accountability.
Yeah.
And work together. That's why the community is so important. I had someone that commented on one of my videos, and they made a really sarcastic, like just dumb comment. And I basically just, as politely and professionally as I could, told them shut up and go away.
Right.
And they were like, oh, some people just don't get my sense of humor. I'm from Australia, and so I'm really sarcastic. And I said, I have a lot of people from Australia here. That doesn't give you the right to act this way and speak to people this way. This is not how you make friends. And this person made the comment, they're like, oh, I'm not really looking for friends. And it's like, then what are you doing in the community?
Yeah.
Because the whole point of these kinds of communities is that we need community. We need our tribe. This is why Dr. Barry talks about the tribe that he has, right? We need our tribe. We need our people, because that's how we stay strong and stay accountable to each other.
Yeah.
So that we can make these decisions, because this is not an easy thing to do. This is why I'm blessed to be married to a woman that keeps me accountable to the decisions that I make, and I try to do the same for her. And that's why we have you guys. We try to stay accountable to you. So
yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I feel like we preached a good long sermon this morning.
That's right.
Let's see here. Got some stuff going on in the comments.
Yeah.
Brian Wayne says, you can have a million different channels. I subscribe to all and get something different from them.
Well, thank you, Brian. We're really glad you're here.
Yeah. Janelle says, it's a good thing our bodies are flexible in what we eat. I'm going on a vacation in the autumn. I will need to be more dirty carnivore / keto in order to eat.
Yeah.
And see, that's great.
Yeah.
Plan ahead.
That is also ancestrally appropriate, because there were times when food was short where people had to eat what they could. Like our body, I'm not saying it's going to make you feel the best or that it's the ultimate thing you can do, but your body is capable of doing it without like imploding.
Yeah.
Like you just got to get back to what you can do as best you can, and just limit the exposure to the things that don't make you feel good.
Right.
That's all you can do.
Exactly. She also says, ooh, recipes for food that travels well would be good. I'll be making more jerky before I travel.
For sure.
I mean, again, you're planning ahead though.
Yeah.
It's like you're bringing jerky and stuff like that. So then if you're with someone else and they want to stop at a gas station and get a Snickers bar, you're like, no, I'm good. And you eat your jerky.
Before we hop in the car to head to Indiana to Sweetwater to kick off the tour, I'll be making a batch of jerky.
It's what we do.
That'll go with us.
Yeah. Jolene is here, says, set small goals like building a house. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Get you a firm foundation and you build on that over time.
That's right.
Janelle also says, cold turkey carnivore was difficult for me with oxalate dumping. Girl, tell me about it. Yes.
Yes. Well, that's the other thing too. When you do something really cold turkey like that, and this is for any addiction.
Yeah, not just diet.
Cigarettes, alcohol, drug addiction, any of that stuff. You go cold turkey, you will have withdrawals, and you will have dumping symptoms and all of this kind of stuff. And oxalates specifically with like keto and carnivore things, especially with carnivore, that can be a long-lived process, and it can be fine for a year and then suddenly hit you again. I mean, it's just the way our body works. It's very weird. So you have to be prepared.
Well, and that also goes back to breaking things into smaller quarterly goals because over time things do change.
Yep.
And so you have to adapt and figure it out.
Absolutely.
So you just got to roll with it. Brian Wayne says, therapy with Chris and Ash. Love you guys.
That's right. Well, if you guys want to
sit on our couch.
That's right. That's right. If you guys want to know the truth, it's therapy for us as much as it is for anyone else.
Yeah. Jolene says, like one task could be learn about carnivore, then clean out pantry and fridge, then shop for items, get a support network, etc. That's great advice. Yes.
There's a person, Phoenix Ryu, in my comment section a lot of times on the other main channel. He has talked in the comment section before about how he started doing like 2 or 3 carnivore meals a week.
Yeah.
And then he stepped it up to like 5 or 6. And he's starting to already see all these amazing health benefits. And he's just working it more and more and more because he's like, this is how I need to do this. He knows himself well enough to know that's the way to do it.
Yeah. I think knowing yourself is how you can actually do. Yeah.
It's great.
It's super good. Jesus is coming soon says, wow, this is so helpful to plan ahead and break your goals up into more bite-sized pieces.
Yeah.
Jolene says, plan treat meal. Addicted to Antlers says, great advice, Chris and Ash.
Thank you.
Patricia Hoffman says, any thoughts on a cookbook, Chris? For those of us who don't have a clue, former vegetarian.
Yes. So a cookbook is in the plans. In fact, the friends that we had over last night, Sarah, has written a children's book that was published. And so Ash was actually asking her questions about like publishing and printing and distribution.
Yeah.
Like we're in the process of researching how all that needs to be done, because writing it and getting the recipes in there is one thing, but figuring out how to actually turn it into a book that you guys could then get, that's another step we have to learn how to do. So
yeah, I will say too, I know for Patricia, being a former vegetarian, my best friend actually is a vegetarian, oddly enough. So I'm married to the carnivore guy, and you know, she's a vegetarian. But as far as like cooking and stuff, just to kind of give helps and tips in the kitchen, I feel like your Tuesday night live cooking shows.
Yes. Tuesday night live streams would be a great place for you to pop in, and when you have questions about things, like just watch what I'm doing, learn the different techniques, especially the ones I use with proteins.
Yeah.
And you know, if you have questions, just feel free to ask in the chat, because we try to answer everyone's questions as best we can there.
Yeah. And that's every Tuesday at 6 p.m.
Every
Central
Tuesday,
Standard.
6 p.m. Central Standard Time on the main Chris Cooking Nashville channel.
Yeah, just thought that might be helpful. Why you don't have a cookbook, because there's a lot of good cooking advice and tips in there.
And here's the other thing too: if you're vegetarian and you're trying to transition over to like keto, and then eventually meat heavy keto, and then maybe even carnivore, depending on what you're trying to do, you know, it's a progression. Like you can technically do vegetarian and be very keto and very healthy if you're intentional about it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I would recommend it personally. That's just not something I would enjoy. But you know, you can be very meat heavy or very veg heavy on the keto thing, and then kind of work in the direction of the meat. Or I mean, it's whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happiest. But as Dr. Berry always says, it's a spectrum. You can go all the way from vegetarian keto, all the way through meat heavy keto, and all the way down to carnivore to meat, salt water, and even the lion diet where it's just red meat. I mean, and there's a whole spectrum in between. So
yeah. Maritza and I must be on a wavelength. She says it's also hard when the family doesn't eat the same way. It's easy to slip up and the budget doesn't help. Yeah. I actually have an idea on a video for this, Maritza, so stay tuned. I won't go into it all right now. But yeah, Chris and I have actually talked about this, and I think a lot of people, things like the budget or like your family doesn't eat the same way makes it really hard. Yeah. So we actually had a couple of different things that we were going to talk about coming up.
For sure.
Yeah. Jolene says, try and plan a keto alternative. Great idea. Great advice. Brian Wayne says, your guys' gym is the stage. There you go, baby. We're working it out.
That's right.
22Q Catlin says, I've been making your mashed potatoes 2.0 while listening, and they turned out great.
Awesome.
Everyone listening should be jealous right now because these are so good. A+.
I'm so glad you enjoy them.
Yeah. Addicted to Antler says, 100% Chris. You describe addiction perfectly, and great advice from you, Ash.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I think, you know, we're not doctors. We're not health professionals of any kind. We're, you know, as Ash said, we're musicians who became YouTubers. And I, you know, started becoming a recipe creator. And really what we're doing about all of these things is we're just talking about our own experiences based on our own failures.
Yeah.
And we occasionally are talking about things that I have done hundreds of hours of research by watching information that comes from people like Dr. Berry.
Yeah.
People who are way smarter about this information from a medical standpoint than I am. And they do all the hard yards to get the information so that they can put it in an easy to understand format for me, that I can then go read the research they link to and compare what they're saying and look at all of it. And it's fantastic. And, you know, I think there's something I would really encourage any of you to do. It would be, along with, you know, cooking and kind of understanding your diet from that standpoint, because it gives you the control back in your own life to cook your own food. But more importantly, for the health information, learn to read some research studies. Like it takes a little bit of practice and some experience to kind of understand what all of the things are that are being said in scientific studies, how they give you an abstract, and how they give you a conclusion, and what the different phrases mean, and all, you know, all the different things, and how they're citing other things, and all this kind of stuff. Like it takes a little bit of experience maybe to kind of read and understand what each of those things means. But once you kind of learn how they work, how scientific, you know, research studies are laid out, once you get that, it's so much easier to then go look at research that like Dr. Berry has linked in videos or, you know, whatever. You can go read it for yourself and understand it. And this is the kind of thing I had happen recently. Someone told me that a microwave was a horrible thing to use, and it was causing all of this poison in your food, and it was talking about how it changes cholesterol in the food you're eating, and now it becomes a toxic poison, and it kills all the nutrients in your food, and it causes these cancer causing things. Like they had this whole list of things they were telling me why I should never use a microwave. And I said, well, I'm interested, but I've never seen the research on this, you know? And so they sent me some links. They sent me a link to a video by a doctor who was talking about all of this. And then that doctor linked research that he was talking about in his video. So I listened to his video in which he was selling his book that would tell you about how to avoid all this. Okay. So there's my first thing that I'm like, okay, I don't always just believe everything on the internet. But then I actually went and I looked at these research studies, and I read, like, here's the abstract, here's the conclusion they came to, here's all of the different data points, like all of this kind of stuff. I went and I looked at it, and I responded to this person as politely and professionally as I knew how. And I said, you know, he's talking about this stuff in his video that you're using to support what you're saying. First of all, the poisonous cholesterol toxins coming out of a microwave, he doesn't cite anything for that. He just makes the claim and then never says anything, and then says, for more information, go buy my book. Not a good indication. But then several other things, I actually read the research studies, and what it said was, it depends on the food, and it depends on how long it's in the microwave, because all of these different data points were all over the place. And if you microwave it longer, it kills more of the nutrients, and it creates more of these particular things, which may be linked to cancer. They may be considered carcinogenic. And there's all of these, it might, it may, it, you know, all this kind of stuff. And so I responded and I said, that's scientific speak for may or may not. And that basically means that they did not come to definitive conclusions on any of this. And if you grill food, if you bake food in an oven, if you microwave food, all of these same things are happening in varying levels. So I said, again, maybe a microwave is a bad idea. Maybe it's not. But I still haven't seen definitive research to say what is and is not safe.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's that's just one example. But if you guys can read those kinds of things of information for yourself, it makes you so much more confident, so much more just able to make your own determinations and your own decisions. And you can go listen to people like Dr. Berry and Dr. Chafee and Dr. Baker and Dr. Kiltz and Dr. Ovadia and like all of the doctors. All go listen to everything they say, and then go read the research study for yourself. And if someone says you're crazy, carnivore is going to kill you, okay, why? Send me the research that shows me that. You know, it just makes it so much easier to, again, stay on track.
Yeah.
Because you don't get thrown off by other people giving you information that you can't verify.
Yeah, true.
So, do we have anything else in the comment section today?
A couple things real quick. Janelle says, love Dr. Berry and how he puts the research to back what he says. I agreed. Maritza says, thanks, Ash. Looking forward to those upcoming live streams and videos. Education is so important.
Yeah.
20s UQ Cat says, I learned so much more from channels like yours and doctors like Dr. Berry than I ever could from my regular doctor. I'm so grateful for the knowledge. Thank you.
You guys are very welcome, and I'm glad that these kinds of things are helpful. And this is one of the things, you know, one of the reasons that I'm so supportive of like what Dr. Berry and Nisha do is because, you know, when I first heard all of this stuff, I thought it was crazy. I really did. And I was like, but I'll go listen to it because, again, I never believe what I hear on the internet. I just do my own research. And so I went and listened to what Dr. Berry would say, and I started reading the research that he was linking. And I was like, son of a gun if he isn't right.
Right.
And so I looked at the research and I was like, yeah, that's right. And then he would say something in another video and I'd go, yeah, that's right. And so over and over and over, I kept seeing him link to research that supported what he was saying. And I was like, this is absolutely crazy that all of this is out there. And I've never heard any of this. Why is no one talking about this? And so that is what really convinced me that what he was saying was real.
Right.
And it wasn't until I went and saw the studies for myself that I truly understood he was right. Yeah. And that is really what it came down to. So, you know, I would encourage you guys, go read that information. And, you know, he's a great resource. There's other doctors on YouTube that are great resources for keto and carnivore, but learn to read that research because it inspires so much more confidence in what those doctors say. And a lot of times now, I don't necessarily go look into a lot of the research he uses unless I'm just, I've never heard of that one before. Let me go see what's going on there. But it's like he has established the integrity of what he says. And that helps a lot when you're trying to figure out how something works or what you should or shouldn't believe. It helps a lot to be able to do your own research.
Yeah.
Just the same way it helps a lot to be able to make your own food in your own kitchen, so you don't have to trust some corporation has put the appropriate things on the label.
Come on now.
So anyway, well, if there's nothing else in the comment section, then I think we can let everybody get about their Monday. So guys, thank you so much for watching. It really is a joy to get to see you all on Monday, and it helps us just start our week off right and to focus on all the things we need to do. We have that Tuesday night live stream coming tomorrow with the Your Oven is Your Friend approach to cooking. And that's going to be fantastic. I'm already hungry for dinner tomorrow night.
Me too. Because
it's going to be really, really good. I'm going to do salmon, but like I said, you can do chicken thighs, you could do pork chops, you can do whatever. That's going to be really good. And then on Saturday, we have the chuck roast coming out, or as Maritza pointed out, you could do a pork roast with it as well. That would also be fantastic. So that's going to be coming out. And we have a whole bunch of new things we're working on. I've got probably 3 videos we're filming today.
Yeah.
I think. And one of those is in partnership with a company called Knife Saga that sent me a set of knives that I'm going to use. And I'm going to show you guys how to break down a whole chicken.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really cool. I'm actually going to show you 2 ways to break down the chicken, because one of my recipe videos is going to use the completely deboned chicken like I did with the Typher air fryer video. And we're going to be doing a new recipe using a deboned chicken. So I'm going to show you that, and I'm going to show you just kind of a normal way of breaking a chicken down into pieces for another recipe video. But then I'm going to have that video with Knife Saga where we're going to do the actual breaking down of the chicken in 2 different ways. So those are going to be really cool. And I think we can go ahead and say, I am very close to 100,000 subscribers on the main Chris Cooking Nashville channel. We have a little less than 700 to go, and it is moving very quickly. So please like and share and comment and thumbs up and do all these different things. That helps us so much. When we hit 100,000 subscribers, we have a giveaway that we're going to be doing, and there'll be more details about that coming. But the Knife Saga knife set, we're going to send that out to somebody. So I've already got a knife set. I don't need 2 sitting around here. So we're going to do the Knife Saga video, and then I'm going to send out a brand new knife set. I mean, it's like a whole set. It's a block with all the knives and everything. So it's really cool. I'm going to send out a knife set to someone who is the lucky winner of that. Also, the Tasty air fryer. If you saw the chicken lollipops video that I did with the Tasty air fryer, I'm going to send the Tasty air fryer to somebody as well, because I've already got 2 air fryers. I don't need a 3rd one. But the Tasty is really, really cool. And we've got that all boxed up. We're going to send that out for you guys. So someone will get that. And the Chef's Temp, the wireless probe thermometer that I did the Chef's Temp video of, we're going to send that out, because I have 2 other types of probe thermometers. I don't need a 3rd one. And that's a really, really great thermometer. So we are going to send that out. So we have some really nice giveaways. There might be some other stuff as well. More details will be coming about that. But when we hit 100,000, we're going to send some stuff out to some viewers, because it's all because of you guys that we are able to do this full time, and then we are about to cross over 100K. So and eventually you'll see a silver play button probably sitting either over here or over here, because that will be coming soon. So you guys keep an eye on the channel, keep sharing and just telling people we're here, especially with the studios channel here as well, because we're trying to get this one grown up so we can reach more people with health information and motivation. And we've got some cool videos we're going to be doing for this channel with like research-based health information. So thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate every single one of you for being here. We love you guys, and we can't wait to see you. So you guys make sure to eat your meat, love your life, and we're going to see you back here in the studio for more motivation and health videos. Bye, guys.
Bye.